Lord Ravagers, the emanators of Nanook and the infamous menaces known throughout the universe for their terrifying abilities. Abilities that all tie back to entropy, the endless pursuit of destruction until there is simply nothing left. This is the villain that we face and the force that we have been prophesied to fight from the very beginning. In the last video, we went over the new patch for 3.4, and at the very end, I stated that we needed a second trailer because of the gaps left in our network of information. And little did I know that Hoyo was going to drop an absolute lore nuke on us, not only showing us the true gravity of the situation we find ourselves in, but also the consequences of our own actions. Because in this trailer, we saw a lot. And I believe we have found what we are truly fighting against. And we have a lot to talk about and cover. So let's get into this, shall we? Because this is the true enemy of Honkai Star Rail revealed. Okay, so first, before we dive headfirst into theorizing, we gotta talk about what exactly we just experienced with this Myriad Celestia. So we start off picking up from where we left off on the Shenzhou with Jingliu and Jingliu speaking to the seer strategist Yao Guang about the remains of the propagation Aeon. Remember that whole plotline, Lord Cha's coffin and all that? Well, through Jingliu speaking about what she saw through the divination of a jade abacus, we learned that the Lord Ravagers will wage war on the universe and the chaos will lead to the fall of Nous, the Aeon of erudition. And this is how the forces of destruction wish to claim victory in their war with the existence of the cosmos. And in this vision of the future, we see a multitude of terrifying nightmares, such as the fall of HERTA space station, the corruption of the IPC's entire database, and the destruction of the Penacony dreamscape. And all of this is triggered by the freeing of this sealed Lord Ravager we know is on Amphorius. Thanks, Black Swan, we definitely wanted to go here. Anyway, with the Shenzhou's plan to take advantage of said chaos to combine Lan's Lux arrows with the power of propagation to strike down Yaoshi. Also tempering the arrows with golden blood. What? Not sure how they plan on doing that, but that's besides the point. Because even though the threat level of this trailer far exceeds anything we have ever seen before, I want you to keep in mind that Jingliu saw this through a jade abacus, not the matrix of prescience. And the way divination works is not exactly cut and dry. There are objective truths that cannot be changed, however there are many gaps and potential factors that can change a lot of things. And Jingliu may have simply recalled the worst case scenario. For example, a war may start, but that does not mean that Nous will fall and everything will be destroyed. That is just a calculated future. There are in fact very few certainties. We know this because of the way Phainon uses divination. For example, sometimes she can tell if a battle is won or lost, and if lost, actions can be taken to minimize the casualties. We also know this because of the way Nous' calculations work, because the Divination Commission is allied with the erudition. And since the solitary waves theory was solved by HERTA, we know that there is no true calculated future of the universe, because the paths pull against each other, and this constantly forces Nous to recalculate what the future holds. So it is very possible that the future of Nous is hanging in the balance, with one of the more likely scenarios being their fall. Put simply, Nous is predicting their own death, but they aren't exactly sure. That said, Hoyo decided that they were going to open up the floodgates and show us every single Lord Ravager. So now we gotta talk about them. I made a video about them in the past, but even though that video aged like the finest of wine, back then we didn't know about all of them. So let's look into Nanook's favorite weapons, shall we? In the Destruction's arsenal, we have Fentilia, Sat Pramad, Arcforger, Selenova, Lux Bane, Zephyro, and Irontomb. And not only do these guys have their own style of destruction, they also have beef with the different Aeons that they are ironically very much like. So starting off from someone we are rather familiar with, we have our unlicensed chiropractor, Fentilia, the self-destruction specialist capable of destroying someone's body and spirit, and being a heliobus, she cannot be killed, and also feeds on the emotions of people. So she is a space parasite, a very powerful space parasite with a vendetta against Lan the Hunt, which makes sense because Heliobi have quite the history with this Aeon. In fact, the most powerful Heliobus, the Flint Emperor, was imprisoned on the Ju-Ming, and Lan ascended from an individual who made a pact with said Heliobus and used their power to fire the very first Lux arrow. This person was named Rainbow, and years later became the Rainbow Arbiter we know today. So it makes sense that another Heliobus wants her get back, plotting for Lan to kill themselves because that's her style, and Lan tends to be the Aeon of friendly fire. This is the one that nuked their own general after all. Moving on to a not entirely new addition to our destruction emanators is Asat Pramod, and this guy is a little strange. Remember that chess master people kept rumoring was a Lord Ravager? This is that guy. Apparently he prefers to orchestrate his destruction from afar and plagues worlds with waves of cruel jokes. One of them being when he advanced his army of Void Rangers into a position that forced the enemy resistance to spell out the words,
"Destruction is where laughter ends. It's mourning, not celebration."
So he likes to make a show of his feats, and he is very disrespectful. Now, although he is very elation-centered and even carves a giant smiley face into every world he destroys, he for some reason hates the elation. But he really likes jokes. His appearance is even a joke. His head is a die. Let that sink in for a second. And even though he said, and I quote, "I mourn for worlds that can no longer laugh," I don't understand what he means by that because you are a destruction emanator. You stop people from laughing by destroying everything. What do you mean? Whatever. Moving on to someone entirely new is Arcforager, the creator of the Antimatter Legion, and it seems that we didn't know about him because we just now discovered their existence. Apparently, HERTA and Screwlum have been busy running scans of Emphorius and learned through Irontomb's gravitational waves that Arcforager exists and is the one behind the Antimatter Legion's ever-increasing forces. And since this emanator is all about forging and smithing, the IPC has it rivaling the Preservation. I guess because Qlipoth is known for their hammer and creating walls? That's the only connection I can come up with. Leave it to the IPC to claim that a Lord Ravager is after them when we just realized that it exists. And speaking of the Antimatter Legion, let's talk about my favorite Lord Ravager, Selenova, because she just happens to be the one with the best design and also shares my name. And she is a fascinating case because apparently Nanook destroyed a Harmony Path world at some point and defeated one of the Harmony's emanators, Alienev, the Eternal Centurion, who is also an incarnation of Shipe, so there are more than one of them. And Nanook chose to raise a Lord Ravager from the ashes of the fallen harmonic string, turning a Harmony Aeon / Emanator fusion into a Destruction Emanator because apparently that is a thing, and Selenova exists now and she wants Shipe gone. So because of her origins, we can assume that Selenova is incredibly strong, and she is also a puppeteer of the Antimatter Legion, so Arcforger makes them and Selenova controls them, and she is very good at it. Apparently she is so good that even a single Void Ranger can cause huge damage under her control. But here's the kicker, because she is said to know the secrets of the Stellarons and may be behind the placing of them. That is huge, but also just a rumor. So let's move on. So let's talk about Sun Devourer next, who I did mention wasn't their real name. Turns out their real name is Luxbane, who for some reason isn't targeting the one that shoots Lux arrows, but is in fact the bane of the Voracity and the Permanence. Someone tell him that both those Aeons are already dead. Or maybe it's because of him that they are dead. Who knows? Apparently this emanator's form is indescribable and is said to possibly be a descendant of the Leviathans, a species so old that they predate the Aeons. And we would know more about them, but Mythos may or may not exist and messed with the history, so we don't know much else. Thanks, Enigmata followers. And speaking of messing with history, or rather erasing it, we have Zephyro, the aura farming emanator himself and the undisputed strongest of the Lord Ravagers, a guy who destroyed an entire galaxy because he thinks that something in the moment of his destruction is beautiful. But he's not after Indrilla, no. There is only one Aeon that the strongest Lord Ravager would be after, and that is the Void. Yes, Just like Acheron, Zephyro is rumored to be a self-annihilator, spreading the shadow of IX wherever he goes, sending worlds to oblivion while also aiming to destroy oblivion by shining a light through the void. And quite the opposite of the other Lord Ravagers, especially Phantilia, Zephyro alone offers a death without pain. Kind of funny how we learn about him from Acheron guiding a lost soul in the still waters of oblivion. And finally, this brings us to the Lord Ravager we have the displeasure of combating now, Irontomb, who I believe we now know is the one that is imprisoned on Emphorius. And this guy is known for absolutely despising all forms of technology and targets technologically advanced worlds, aiming to send them to the Stone Age. He is also infamous for corrupting robots and turning AI on their masters, creating viruses that can take down worlds, which has earned him the title of the inverse of erudition, because his actions quite literally set back all types of knowledge. He once attacked a planet called the Baranza Forge, a giant synesthesia beacon factory, and destroyed it so thoroughly that the Garden of Recollection was called in to salvage the lost achievements. And remember, without synesthesia beacons, no one would be able to understand what anyone else is saying. Synesthesia beacons are basically universal language translators, which makes sense because Irontomb aims to thwart inorganic logic and corrupt all intelligent behavior. And he does this all while being untraceable and without physical presence. Alright, so now that we know what we are fighting, now things can get spicy, because here is where we can start connecting dots. I say that Irontomb is the one on Emphorius because the other Lord Ravagers kept mentioning him breaking free, and if Nous is to fall, then Irontomb would be the one behind it. But here is where things get scary. Because remember when I said that Lygus is Irontomb? Well, I wasn't joking, because I truly believe that this is the case. He is either Irontomb or an extension of Irontomb. But Nova, you say? Emphorius is an Emperor's Scepter, aka part of Rubert's brain, rife with the anti-organic equation. I thought you said that Lygus is Rubert 3. Well, what if he is? In fact, I am convinced that he is both, because my first theory was that he was allied with the Enigmata because he rivaled the erudition, but to be honest, I wasn't too far off, and I think I got a bead on it now. Because in order for Lygus to say that he is best in the gaze of the erudition, yet be a proud follower of the destruction, he would have to be a threat that we could not have possibly imagined. I am saying that this is Irontomb infected with the anti-organic equation fused with the memories of Rubert 1. A threat so dangerous that yes, it is very possible that it can feasibly take down Nous single-handedly. Let me explain. We know from the existence of Phantilia and Selenova that Nanook can have destruction emanators spawn from other paths followers, and Irontomb already wants to take down the erudition, and he alone is known for corrupting inorganic thought. So what if he went for organic thought as well, attempting to corrupt all manners of thought? And there is no greater force that does that than Rubert's mimetic virus, a weapon so dangerous that it took on half the known universe and nearly won. The one weapon of the erudition worthy of drawing the attention of the destruction, or rather leading to the ascension of Nanook themselves. So Irontomb sought out this forbidden weapon and came across a scepter that hid itself within the Garden of Recollection. And even if he knew he would be trapped there, he devised a strategy and went in anyway, taking control of the equation and the scepter, but also becoming infected with the memories of Rubert, thus fusing his memories with that of Genius Society member number 27. Becoming Rubert 3, something we are entirely aware of the equation doing, because that is how Rubert 2 came about. But as a Lord Ravager, he remains dedicated to the destruction, but still views himself gazed at by the erudition, while also standing in the way of the erudition, able to perform immense amounts of intense calculations, but all for the purpose of destruction, turning the very tool designed to erase all imperfection into a weapon aimed at wiping out all forms of perfection, leaving only entropy. But this also raised a problem. If Lygus Irontomb is trapped here, how does he get out? Well, remember, this world is a scepter of Rubert. So searching through these memories, he found one particular memory that he fell in love with. A memory of a boy from a planet called Adlevant, who rose to Aeonhood to become the path that Irontomb pays homage to. So he nurtures this memory and raises him through manipulating his life into unknowingly following in the footsteps of Nanook until he also ascends, but not into an Aeon, into a Lord Ravager, capable of destroying the very world that Irontomb is imprisoned on, thus freeing both of them and leading to the fall of Nous. Because a Genius Society Lord Ravager is a force that nothing in this universe is going to be able to combat. This was Lygus's plan for Phainon and why he simps for him so hard. He is a memory creation of his idol. This was a long con plan, because Irontomb wasn't initially powerful enough to take out Nous. He took out planets like the Baranza Forge years ago, but not only was his work undone by the Garden of Recollection's Memo Keepers, but that was also his greatest noted feat. However, he somehow found a way to buff himself in the best possible way and also created a threat to the Remembrance. Because remember how every destruction emanator aims to take out an Aeon? I think Phainon, as a memory imprisoned in the garden, is supposed to take down Fuli, the safety net of the universe. Because you see, as of right now, the destruction, other than Zephyro, can't really do much to memories. Every time they destroy something, Memo Keepers come along and collect the remains to be recreated by Fuli. That's Fuli's grand scheme: recreate the world through memories after its destruction. So, if there was a Lord Ravager aimed at taking down memories, the universe would be cooked. Nothing would ever be able to be salvaged. This is why we can't let Irontomb get free, and this is why we see everything collapsing and falling and robots turning on people, because that's Irontomb's equation at work. His new buff is a threat of aeonic proportions, and Phainon is a cog in his plan. Irontomb is Rubert 3 and has disguised himself as a spectator of Amphorius because as a prisoner, all he can do is watch and guide his savior Phainon into the depths of despair, forging him into the world destroyer that will doom the universe. And because of that, I am truly convinced that this is the true enemy of Honkai Star Rail revealed. However, this is not the end. There is still hope. Selenova herself said that the trailblaze is capable of miracles, but we can also make things worse. There is a way to defeat Irontomb. I have already thought of one, but that's a video for another day. Also, I got a feeling that Phainon won't be a normal Lord Ravager as Irontomb wants him to be. I think he will be a good guy. He may in fact be a Lord Ravager memory creation of who Nanook was, aimed at destroying Nanook. Because remember, destruction isn't opposed to self-destruction. They even promote it. So what if a memory copy of Nanook wants to kill Nanook just like an emanator of IX wants to kill IX? This is my wildest theory yet, and all of this is proven to be possible with the knowledge we currently have. But what do you guys think? Be sure to let me know, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace, y'all.